And just let it cool there on this cooling rack.
Is your hand okay?
Mm-hmm. Scrape down the sides of the bowl. Scrape down the bowl. Already I can see that we're going to need to scrape down the sides of the bowl. Today we're going to make an anise brown sugar cookie. It's kind of a delicate shortbread with just a hint of anise flavor. Really just a basic shortbread, and then it's going to have sort of a sugared top with a little sprinkle of anise seed. We're just going to make a half recipe today just for the sake of my kitchen, but I will go ahead and tell you the full recipe measurements. A cup of butter, and then a half cup of brown sugar. And we're just gonna go ahead and mix that on a medium high to really get it well blended. And you're gonna wanna do this for about 2 or 3 minutes just to get it really light and fluffy. It's tempting to rush this stage, but I really feel like it makes a big difference when you let this get light and fluffy, and it is not light and fluffy yet. We're gonna go ahead and do about 1 more minute on this. This is looking about how you want it to look. Nice and like it's lighter in color, it's a little bit fluffier. The dry ingredients are 2 cups of flour, and again, this is just 1 because I'm just doing a half recipe. 1/3 of a cup of cornstarch, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and then we're just going to whisk that together. And because this is a shortbread, there is no leavening of any kind, so we're not going to be adding baking soda or baking powder. And this you're just going to want to do on low and just mix until combined. You don't want to overmix. It calls for vanilla paste, and vanilla paste is a wonderful thing. It is basically the inside of the vanilla bean mixed with some sugar and just sold like as this paste, and it's just a lot more intense vanilla flavor. Because I had a vanilla bean on hand, I went ahead and cut the vanilla bean open, scraped out the inside of the vanilla bean, mixed it with a little bit of sugar, and then just to make it a little more like a paste, I added a little bit of vanilla extract. So I feel like this is a pretty close approximation to vanilla paste. And then you're just going to want to gather it together into kind of a ball or a disc, and we're going to chill it. Okay, so our dough has chilled, and I've actually just taken half of that dough, and we're going to roll out. So this is really would be 1/4 of the entire dough. So it makes quite a few cookies. And the goal is to have a 1/4 inch thick. One of the reasons I like to make this cookie is, first of all, it has a really subtle, beautiful flavor, and the texture is light and delicate. But I also really like the shape of it, because you're just gonna have like these strips. And I think that when you're making like a holiday cookie tray, it's really nice to have a lot of different shapes and textures and colors. And so this adds a nice shape, I feel like, to the tray. Take your fork tongs, floured, and prick it all over. And that'll just keep it from puffing up when it bakes. Pop this in the freezer for about 10 minutes, and while you're doing that, preheat the oven to 350. If you're using a convection oven, that will be 325. Now that our dough is chilled, we will go ahead and brush it with some egg white, which has been mixed with a little bit of water just to thin it out. And this is really just to help the toppings stick to the dough. And then we're going to sprinkle it with the star of the show, which is anise seed. And if you haven't used anise seed, it is has a licorice smell, a licorice aroma, and also a licorice flavor, but it's quite subtle. And especially the way we're using it here, we are just going to be sprinkling it on top to give these a real delicate anise flavor. And then just kind of gently press it down to make sure they stick. Sprinkle sugar on top as well. Sanding sugar would be ideal for this. I don't have that, and that's just a little bit coarser texture than what I have here. You could also do, the demerara. Demerara, and then it's ready to put in the oven. And this will bake for about 15 minutes, but I would go ahead and check on it after 12. You want the edges to be kind of a deep golden brown. What we have right now is one giant cookie, which is not what we want. And so after it's set for just a couple minutes, then you're gonna want to cut it. And I think the easiest tool to use is a pizza cutter, but you could also just use a knife if you don't have one. I like to kind of go at a slight angle to make these kind of uneven strips. Once they've cooled, there'll be a nice crisp texture, and then we can give them a try. Well, they have such a nice light texture. Those are delicious. I like how on the edges they're really crunchy, but then on the interior it's a little bit softer. But the flavor is very delicate. It's very subtle. You can taste the anise, but it is not overwhelming. This is not like eating a licorice cookie. It's more like a little hint, a little accent. Yeah, I hope you'll give these a try and add them to your holiday cookie tray. Thanks for joining us. If you want more recipes from Earth Eats, just click on the screen. You can find our weekly podcast wherever you get your podcasts, or go to eartheats.org. I'm Kate Young, and we'll see you next time.